Okay, so we're going to get started. It's a quarter after, actually 16 after. So we're going to get started. So thank you all very much for being here for our panel, which, as you can see here, is entitled Psychotherapy Across the Alphabet Divide. Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, there's a green button. Okay, got it. Thank you. And we have three really great, interesting speakers for this particular panel. The premise of the panel is actually talking with clinicians and therapists who have actually worked in multiple types of psychotherapies, and not simply learned and practiced different types of psychotherapy, but have commitment to each of the kinds of psychotherapy that they've learned, and hence the name Psychotherapy Across the Alphabet Divide. These individuals have worked in dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, transference-focused psychotherapy, TFP, general psychiatric, good psychiatric management, GPM, and mentalization-based therapy. And there's a bit of a course that led to this particular panel, at least from my perspective. As you can see here, the field back in 1991 was really such that people practiced what they wanted. And there was really no guidance coming from the larger science. That changed with Linehan's 91 study. And for the next 10 years or so, there became strong interest in practicing empirically supported treatments. Most of the time that was dialectical behavior therapy, and DBT was widely disseminated. Some suggested it might not only be the treatment of choice, but ethically the treatment of choice. That started to change when there was recognition that there were other therapies available to clinicians, but most of the research at the time was still actually on dialectical behavior therapy, although there was increasing evidence for mentalization-based therapy, schema-focused psychotherapy, TFP, and others. And around this time, I started to believe, and I think other people started to believe, it was really important for communities to have empirically supported treatments available to patients with borderline personality disorder, and that every community should have that available. As the literature went on, I started thinking that not only did every community need to have an empirically supported treatment available, but they needed to have multiple. And that's because the field was showing that only about half the patients were getting better in the trials, and that many people were still, even if their symptoms remitted, still not doing well. As Linehan said, they were still often miserable. And so the idea that either increased dose or even a different treatment was coming into our purview. But now we're at a point where I think where we've moved is not only that we need to have multiple types of treatments available in communities, but it seems as if clinicians actually need to know how to practice in different ways. And there's enough evidence that these various treatments are effective enough that we should be aware of them and understand how to potentially practice them. So as you can see here, these are a number of the treatments that have been tested, and you can see in parentheses the alphabet soup that's sort of associated with them. And that was essentially the premise of this panel. I, through my travels, have come across Richard, Brandon, and Patrick recognizing that they didn't only practice multiple types of treatments for borderline personality disorder. They weren't just simply trained in two or more modalities, but they actually were committed to their modalities, these various modalities, and they had thought very deeply about what the choice points are for when you practice in one way or another way, or what their evolution was in their thinking. So without any further ado, I think, Brandon, you're up first. So thank you.